Namaste. I welcome you to my podcast, Holistic Conversations, with your host, Mamina Das. Join me in my journey, in all of our journey, because we are all unique and we are the universe. Welcome to Holistic Conversations. Okay, namaste everyone, and welcome to Holistic Conversations. I'm excited for today's episode. I took a break and then I'm back again, so I'm looking forward to. And I don't want to talk much and get started with welcoming my guest. Today is Nadine Hancher. Am I pronouncing correct?
Hancher, yeah.
Hancher. Okay, she is from Canada. Okay, and she is from where do you live?
Victoria, BC.
Okay, we lived in British Columbia, Vancouver. So it's wonderful to meet someone who is still living there, and I can still feel the same, like, we lived here, we went there, this and that. And then I would like to welcome her. Namaste, welcome. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you, to know about you. I don't want to read. I just want to listen from you because I like to listen. So let's get started. Yes, over to you.
Well, what would you like to know? So I mean, there's lots of things. So I mean, I work with people who are couples who are having difficulties. I work with people who have trauma. I have developed a PEP personality process that helps me to assess people really quickly. And it helps me to assist them in actually knowing themselves really, really from a very holistic perspective, which helps them to be more of their best self.
That is so amazing. And I really like this idea that to know ourselves, we need to know the other. Or we need to reach out to other. Please help me, you know.
Yeah, all relationships are actually based on our relationship to self. So having a good relationship with ourselves actually helps us have good relationships with other people.
Absolutely. But my question is, um, how do I know what is the relationship that I'm having with me? Because again, it is linked to my trauma, my familiarity, my environment, the way I am brought up, that is normalized. How do I know that this can change? My life to myself can be better.
Well, one of the things that I would need to answer that question would be for you to do my pet personality process. But anyway, we are not our traumas. Our traumas are things that happen to us. And there are many ways of releasing that in negative emotion out of our system so that it no longer affects us. That's one of the things that I do. We are, yes, we are influenced by our environments, by our parents, by our cultures. And yet we still have free will. And so
We
we
do, we do.
we actually can change.
Yes.
And many people do. So when we think, of our childhoods and the things that happened in our childhood, and we think, oh, we can't change because of that. That's not true. We can change right up until the day we die. We actually have that ability. That old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks is not true. We actually
Yes.
we can continue to learn for right up until we die.
Yes.
Till we pass over. Yeah.
That's true, but what percentage of that you have seen unfold in people's life? What percentage? We see, we read books, we learn, we read, we do everything that is possible and able and capable, but what is the percentage when people are really um,
Well, one
working?
of you know, what I think that reading is wonderful. I think that intellectual knowledge is good. The thing is that intellectual knowledge doesn't necessarily make the change. So we actually have to change what we're doing and what we're feeling and how we're, approaching something. So it's a different it's a different way of seeing the world, I guess. We have to change how we perceive things, and that usually needs some help. So
Yes, yes,
so I recommend that people, if they're having some difficulties, that they actually get some help, because as much as we can read books and we can, watch videos and we can look on, YouTube, and
yeah,
there's so
yeah,
many places to get information.
that's right.
Information becomes intellectual knowledge, but it doesn't actually necessarily change things unless you choose to do something different.
Yes. And I want to ask you, like, how you have seen people implement it and receive that information that, wow, I did something different today. Today, I did something different, you know.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to say to you is I've been at this for 40 plus years, right? So um, I've seen a lot of people make significant shift. I've seen a lot of people change their lives for a more positive way of being in the world, having a better life, having a better relationship, having better communication, depending on what it is that we're working with.
Yeah,
And, you know, I think that for me, I treat each individual as an individual. So, when a person comes in, they do the PEP personality process. That's the first thing I do with everybody. And the reason I do that is because it gives them so much information, and it gives me information as to what's going to best suit them and
yeah,
how I can best help them.
yeah,
So, and then I find out what is it that they want to accomplish in coming to see me, right?
yeah,
And then I blend those two things together. What's best, what works best for them, what is it they want to accomplish, and then we create, I redesign the therapy around
wow,
them. Yeah. And because I've never stopped learning, I've been a person that's continuously learning, um, ever since I began this process, and even before that. Um, I have many, many different tools, and I have a very, very large toolbox.
yeah.
So if something
40
isn't,
plus years, yes.
you know, so if something isn't working, then we just do something else.
Yeah,
If we try one thing and it doesn't, there isn't a huge success, then we just do something else. And so, you know, the funny thing with my clients is that I often complete with my clients quite quickly. And so,
wow,
people say to me, Nadine, do you have space in your counseling? And I'm like, I always have space in my counseling. I'm always completing with people. So,
wow,
it's kind of a different way of being. I see a lot more people than
yeah,
other therapists do. Yeah.
yeah. And I want to ask personally, how does it feel? How does it feel?
Well, I love what I do. I love help. I love assisting people. I love assisting. I work with couples. I work with business partners. I work with small business groups, management groups, things like that. So I mean, and I do trainings, and I do, all kinds of different things. I do meditations. I do, so I mean, I have enough variety in my life, and I have enough um, success in my life that I enjoy what I do.
Wow, wonderful. That's really wonderful to know.
And retirement really isn't in. I don't know why I would retire. So
Wow.
like people often say, so when are you going to retire? And I'm like, well, I'm not really going to retire. I don't have that in my
Yeah.
that's not in my bucket list.
Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful to know. That's a different mindset. So, yeah. And there's another thing that I learned about her when we were talking before this is she wanted to go for college, but then she met someone, her teacher. She guided her. That's what I felt. I received that information in that way, but I would like to listen from her more. What what happened that she took that U-turn and
Well, okay, so by the time I decided that I wanted to be a counselor, I had done many trainings. I had done a lot of stuff. I was already teaching workshops. I was already doing Reiki. I was doing lots of different things. But I went into the university, and I went in to see a counselor at the university. And I, she asked me what I wanted to do. I told her what I wanted to do. And she got up and she closed the door. And that to me was quite significant. Yeah, she didn't want anyone to hear what she was about to tell me.
wow.
But she said, you know, to go to university to do what you want to do, she says you don't want to work for anyone else. And I said, no, I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to work for myself. And she said, well, if you go to university, you have to take a lot of courses that are not going to pertain to what you want to do. You're going to
Mm,
have to do a lot of different things that you're going to be frustrated.
yeah.
And she said, what I would recommend is that you actually go and do your counseling training at at the Counseling Institute in Vancouver, and get a counseling certification, because at that point in in the universe, that was a viable thing that you could do. And so I did that. That's one of the things that I did. I went there and I took that training, and that was traditional counseling training, and I got
Mm,
certified as a counselor. But
wow.
I also took another course before going over there, and I met a fellow who was an NLP trainer. And
Okay.
he basically told me, if you want to actually have success in getting people to actually make significant change, then you need to learn NLP,
So what is NLP?
neuro linguistic psychology, or neuro linguistic programming, depending on who you talk to.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so basically I wanted to do both of those things. So I actually did both trainings. I actually I did my practitioner training, and then I did my master practitioner training, and then I did my trainer's training in NLP. So you know, I realized I had different skill sets than the traditional therapy. Um, the traditional therapy I found quite limited in terms of what the skill sets were.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I probably did more NLP than I did traditional therapy right from the beginning. So
Okay, wow. That was your approach, and you found it.
yeah, I often say to people, well, NLP is kind of like, how do you run the human computer?
Ah, okay, wow. Yeah,
So it's about how we do that. So
yeah.
anyway, and then in 1994, I decided to open a training institute, and so I started Progressive Edge Plus NLP Incorporated, and had that became I became a training institute at that point as well. So
Wow. And it was back in 1994. and so many years have passed. What do you see? How do you see how things are changing, evolving? What do you see? What changes do you see?
Well, when I first started with NLP, there was people didn't know what it was. They didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a clue what it could do. It's a very open art and science. This is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can apply it in many different ways. You can apply it to health. You can apply it to sports. You can apply it to counseling. You can apply it to business. You can apply it, to pretty much everything. So my sort of main thing in the beginning was actually teaching people what it was and how it could help them.
Wow.
And now I think that more people know what it is and more people are utilizing it or want to utilize it. um, there's a lot of people out there that have not they're doing NLP, but they're not calling it NLP,
Oh,
which is kind of interesting. I think it's because it's not easy to explain.
okay, okay, okay. So they have their different version of it.
Well, it's the same version. It was actually kind of funny. I actually had a friend who wanted me to take her training, and so she kind of insisted that I take her free training, and so I did. Um, but it was interesting because one of the things she had said to me ahead of time was that she didn't like NLP, and and that had to do with a bunch of stuff that she had happened for her. But so I went to take her training, and her whole training was NLP, and so I was a little bit confused. And
Okay.
so afterwards, I said to her, I said, you told me that you didn't like NLP, but your whole training was NLP. So, and she goes, oh, it wasn't NLP. And I was like, yeah, it was. She learned it from somebody that didn't call it NLP. So she didn't
Okay.
know it was NLP. She
Okay.
thought
Okay.
it was wonderful.
So was it illusional or delusional?
Well, it works, right? So she found that it works, right? And so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that was the main thing. But it was just kind of an interesting thing is that people get these ideas about things that are not always true.
Yeah. Yeah. It also depends like where they receive it from, and they say like I'm doing something different, you know. That's also the thing. It's like the conditioning. I can say like, oh no, that's kind of old. I'm doing something new.
Well,
Anyways, yeah. Yeah. So I also wanted to ask, like, what is the level of um, extreme uh, uh, diagnosis, or you are in the mild side of it, or extreme side of it, or like you
so
have both,
I could pretty much deal with most things. So,
most things? Yeah.
I mean, there may be one or two things that I might refer to someone else, but in reality, um, I've dealt with a lot of different what people would call pretty extreme things.
Yeah. So you know the severity of the diagnosis through this PEP test, and then you filter from there, or like how is it? It
So
depends on the assessments.
it really so there's a few things that it depends on. I mean, it depends on, what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
depends on what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so one of the things about NLP is that you have, your senses are your ability to pick up on the sensations that are going on in the other person are pretty higher than most normal people. And you know, if you pick up on things that where when, the person is saying, yes, I really like that, right?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
they're giving you a very strong no, but saying that they like it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
then you know there's a incongruency there, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a misalignment or
Yeah.
sort of alignment. So you have to pay attention.
Yeah. Really. Yes.
So you have to be really present with the person. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing people feel with me is safe. I'm
Mm,
a very
wow.
safe person to be around. So because I am actually I'm really there to work with and for them, right?
Wow. How many times have your patients repeated their stories? How many times?
Okay, well, I'm not like your traditional therapist, so people need to go through their story once with me, only
Okay.
once, um,
Okay.
and we don't need to go over the story more than once. I don't need to. It actually doesn't serve the client to continue to go over the story again and again.
Yeah.
Um, so no, the story only needs to be gone over once.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And um, how do the patients they react with their life changing, and do they still go back to? Do you have any patients who have gotten back to their patterns again and again?
Um, that's not usually how it works. Uh, the thing is that some of the therapies that I do, timeline therapy, hypnosis, I do exo hypnosis, I do NLP, I do, different energy techniques. So it just depends on what the person needs. Again, it's the therapy is designed around them.
Yeah.
And, when we release negative emotions off of the previous traumatic events,
Yeah.
um, it's probably the most easy way to do that for the client. Like they don't have to relive the experience again or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's, by the time they've released all of that, usually the change happens fairly quickly. You know, I did have one fellow who, he was a retired principal, and he had come to see me because he'd been referred to me by a friend,
Oh
and
wow.
and he came and he was very nice, but he was very, very, very what I would call straight laced. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
Very, very. Somebody might call
Straightforward.
Somebody might say very proper, and they're like very
Perfectionism.
not perfectionism. No, just very um, straight
In
laced
what sense?
is the only way that I can say it. Is that he saw the world in a kind of a very
Oh, okay.
um, modeled kind of way.
Okay.
And of course, what I do isn't always, like it's kind of for some people, it's kind of like, whoa, that's pretty interesting,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Anyway, but he was a lovely gentleman, and he came in and we went through the process, we went through his
Yeah.
story, we went through the clearing. We cleared his limiting emotion, his negative emotions, his limiting beliefs. We did a bunch of different things, and after each session, he would say, "Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it." And
Uh huh.
but he never knew what he got out of it, which was very strange for me. I always ask everybody at the end of every session, "What did you get
Yeah.
out of today for yourself?" And so I was wondering if we were really getting anywhere.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't really giving me a whole lot of feedback, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We came to the conclusion where we had finished what we needed to do, and
Yeah.
we said goodbye. He was very happy, but he wasn't, he again he didn't give me much feedback,
Okay.
and then and then I got invited to, so about a month or so later, maybe 2 months later, I got invited to a house party,
Yeah.
and I only knew the person that was that owned the house.
Okay.
And so I decided to go, and I went, and
Okay.
she's introducing me to people around, and of course what happens is that she introduces me to this principal fellow. And of course I always pretend I don't know them, so
Okay.
because that's, so that was fine. We got introduced, and then he pulls me into a corner. And he's like, I just need to say, I'm so sorry. And I said, what are you sorry for? And he goes, well, I never gave you much feedback. And he
Oh.
said, my whole life has changed. Everything's different. Everything's wonderful. I'm just so happy.
Oh wow.
And I said, well, I'm really glad to hear that. But I'm sure it was very funny for the person that owned the house, because we were talking probably for an hour and a half in the corner.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the right place for him to maybe for your feedback.
He finally realized what he'd gotten out of it, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he just hadn't been able to understand what he'd gotten out of it until that point. But it was just so funny. That's
Yeah. 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 Wow. That's wonderful. And I don't think many people also um, know like what is to be conveyed or um, whether they should go for a feedback or no, or they don't have that immediate realization that wow, things change. So maybe that's the case. Yeah.
yeah, and that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
every
Yeah. Yeah.
however you do it is okay with me, as long as you get the benefit from it. That's the
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
So
That's right. That's right. That's interesting. Do you also work with children or adult youth or adult? I mean,
okay,
teenagers,
so well, I have worked with many young adults, with
young adults. Okay.
19, 18, 19 year olds, uh,
Okay.
year olds, that age group. The children that I have worked with children, but I only have worked with children who are in, like, if I'm working with a couple and they have children and they would like
Okay.
children to come see me. I don't go after working with children, because that's
Yeah.
not my area of
Yeah.
specialty. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And how was your experience working with young adults?
with young adults.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that you really need to have when you're working with young adults is you need to have rapport with them. And so
Oh, okay.
you need to have that connection. And so you
Yeah.
have to make sure that you have enough time with them to get that
Yeah.
before you
Yeah.
can do pretty much anything, because
Okay.
otherwise they're not going to really get the
Open up.
yeah. But
Yeah.
but I find that they're lovely.
Yeah.
They're lovely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So you have worked for each age group, different age groups, and different generations.
Yeah, I work mostly with adults.
Yeah.
That's my main area of focus. I
Yeah.
work mostly with adults. I work a lot. I mean, I work with other therapists,
Yeah.
that need somebody to come and work with. I
Okay.
work with business people that are feeling stuck, or
Yeah.
feeling like they're not getting where they want to go. I work with business partners who are maybe having some difficulties in whatever it is they're doing. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and I work with business teams,
Yeah.
small ones. I don't, I'm
Yeah.
not, I mean, I can work with large ones, but I mostly I've worked with teams that are, say, under 20. Yeah.
Wonderful. I want to ask at this point, like, what uh, influenced you for this career? What? What?
Influenced me for this career.
Yeah. How did you make a decision to go in this path?
Well, let's see. How did I make the decision? Um, my brother was killed when I was 5 by a hit and run drunk driver. And my mom never really recovered very well. And so I always kind of wondered what made people tick.
What made people?
What made people tick? What made them? How did they think? How did they
Oh, think. Okay, yeah, yeah.
what made them tick? And so um, I started doing my own personal growth training, around 15, 16 years old, which most kids
Wow.
don't do at that age. And sort of it went from there. I
Yeah.
started giving workshops when I was 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
Um, and for back then, it was for women, getting their self esteem and, putting themselves out there and going after what they wanted and that kind of.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got married and
Mhm.
um, I actually started a sporting goods store at age 19.
Uh-huh.
I opened a sporting goods store with windsurfers and water skis and, clothing and all kinds of other things. Um, and we were the third store in Canada that had windsurfers. Um,
Oh,
so, and we rented them at in this on this island. It was at Parksville Beach and Qualicum Beach,
okay.
and then we started doing scuba diving lessons, and we
Oh, wow.
quite a few different and a variety of things, risky
Wow.
sports.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, we ended up going from an 800 square foot store, which I could manage with one or two other people, to a 2,400 square foot store, 2 stories high. and,
Wow.
and the economy started to sort of not be good. And so I decided I wanted to get out. And so I put the store up for sale.
Okay.
We had somebody that wanted to buy it, to purchase it, but they got their financing pulled at the last minute.
Oh,
In the process of them saying they wanted to buy it, I got another job. I had already been hired for a job with
wow.
the local newspapers.
Wow.
And then so I liquidated everything and
Yeah.
got out of that particular business and went into the newspaper and ended up working in the newspaper for a couple of years. And it got to a place where there was a little bit of weirdness going on with the owner of the newspaper.
Yeah.
So she was upset that when people thought of her paper, they thought of me instead of her. And so,
Oh, wow.
so even though
Was it a compliment? No.
we had gone from a paper that was in the red to,
Yeah.
putting out a 16-page newspaper to actually being the paper that had all of the flyers and had, we had, up around, 56 pages, whatever, however,
Wow.
like a 58, 60 pages sometimes. So it was, we were doing very well.
Yeah.
And I actually got a call from some managers at one of my bigger um,
The hierarchy.
advertising uh, partners, and they took me out and they said, "What's wrong with your boss?" And I said, What are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, why is she bad mouthing you behind your back?" So I went
Okay.
back there and I asked her. I said, "So what's going on?" And she was like, "Well, when they think of the newspaper, they think of you. They don't think of me."
Wow.
So anyway, so I actually resigned. I found somebody to replace myself.
Okay.
Um, at that point, I decided to go into counseling. So,
Good. Good for you.
you know,
That's
it had
amazing.
always been something I was interested in.
Yeah.
People always came to me and asked me, to assist them with things. So I had kind of had a natural ability to start with, and then I just, I took training, and I took training with in a lot of different ways. Actually, I worked with hospice for a while,
Oh, okay.
getting training from them, and I did my NLP training. I did my, as I said before, my counseling training. So I did what I needed to do, and then
Yeah.
I never stopped training.
Yeah. So, for after listening to you, what I feel is what you seek is seeking you.
Hmm.
So, you always had your heart over there, and somehow the universe again put you there. Go back.
Well, Victoria was very nice. When I moved to Victoria, it was very kind to me. Um,
Wow.
my self esteem programs for women and my self esteem programs for men were very successful. Uh,
Wow.
my client load was very successful. You know, I was well received in
Mm-hmm.
Victoria, so that was nice.
Yeah. And you stayed there.
And I've stayed here, yeah.
Definitely makes sense.
So in 2020, though, see, up until 2020, I did everything in person.
Oh, wow.
And then in 2020, I ended up being forced to go online.
Uh huh.
And now I'm international. So now
Wow.
I have international clients. I have clients in a lot of different places, Florida, Quebec, the Netherlands, Hawaii, California,
Wow.
so, Japan.
Yeah.
So it just depends on. Most of my business comes in as a referral, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm lucky in that way.
And how do you feel about it? From going from in person to, uh,
Well, it took me probably about 6 months to adjust, you
yeah.
know, and to really sort of understand things better and to get the technology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
But
Yeah.
it I find that I can get to know someone very quickly online,
Yeah.
the same way that I do in person. So
Yeah. Wonderful. Uh, Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's not just a story, it's a real life, actually. And
that's
um,
my real life. Yeah.
yeah, it's your real life, it's a fact. Yeah. And she is helping people from get out of their fact if you are feeling that you need some change.
Well, I
And
think
yeah,
the biggest thing that people can do is get comfortable with change.
yeah,
Change is a given, and so you just need to understand that there's always benefits to change, and there's always things that you don't like about change.
yeah. At
But
first, no.
you know, so
At first is
that's that. Get comfortable with change. Get comfortable with yourself.
yeah,
Feel secure in yourself. Love yourself. Be compassionate with yourself.
yeah,
Those are things that are real strengths. Yeah.
yeah. And thank you for the message. This is these are all every day, every moment realization, and they can keep you in track. Absolutely.
True.
So it was wonderful talking to you, Nadine.
It was great
And
being here. Thank you for inviting me on, and I appreciate that. So,
thank you. I feel the same. I feel the same. Thank you for your time. And thank you for sharing that, as you said, like change is difficult to change, but it has to change.
well, the seasons change,
Yeah.
our lives
Yeah.
change. You know,
Yeah.
changes is one of the constants that we have always, and so
Yes.
instead of being afraid of it, it's like
Yeah.
learning that it's an okay thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay to
Absolutely.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Say okay to change. Yes. Today's big message. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hopefully, we'll see you again. Why not?
That's up to you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye for now.